Increasing attention was placing pressure on underworld rackets and operations around the country. Most of the pressure was due to the St. Valentine's Day massacre in Chicago, with former Al Capone boss and mentor Johnny Torrio taking the lead, and Charlie Lucky Luciano and the other delegates backing him up. Capone was chosen as a sacrificial lamb to ease the heat brought on the underworld and its leaders. Al Capone was convinced to allow himself to be arrested on a minor charge and sent to prison for a short period of time, deflecting the media and law enforcement pressure for the good of the whole underworld. After the conference, Chicago underworld boss Al Capone and his bodyguard Frank Rio went to Philadelphia, where two friendly cops arrested and charged them with carrying a gun. Capone and Rio were sentenced to a year in prison, but were released and back in Chicago after only a few months. Capone later told an historian,
"I told them there was business enough to make us all rich. It was time to stop all the killings and look on our business as other men look on theirs. There's something to work at and forge when we go home at night. It wasn't an easy matter for men who had been fighting for years to agree on a peaceful business program, but we finally decided to forget the past and begin all over again. We drew up a written agreement, and each man signed on the dotted line."
The Atlantic City Conference was just the first meeting of its kind that led to the formation of the National Crime Syndicate, but many agree it was the most important. It proposed a governing body that could solve disputes amicably, and most importantly, profitably for all concerned. The National Crime Syndicate that was born of this conference was what Arnold Rothstein had worked towards as he built his own criminal empire. As one writer put it, Rothstein worked to transform organized crime from a thuggish activity by hoodlums into a big business run like a corporation. Even as public outcry for police and government intervention grew, the crime syndicate worked to have systems in place to protect gangsters and ensure their illegal operations would continue to thrive. The late 19th and early 20th century saw an influx of immigrants, turning American East Coast port cities like Boston and New York into melting pots of many different nationalities, creeds, and religions. A large wave of Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe settled into communities like New York's Lower East Side. And it wasn't long before, like the Italian and Irish gangs, Jewish gangs specializing in extortion came into existence. Organizations like the Yiddish Black Hand operated in the early 1900s with gangsters such as Joseph Toplinski, Charlie the Cripple Vitovsky, and their leader, Jacob Johnny Levinsky. They began an extortion ring in 1906 from their hangout at a Suffolk Street saloon, delivering anonymous letters signed as the Yiddish Black Hand, threatening to steal or poison the horses of local pushcart vendors and other businessmen. By 1909, one labor organization, the Ice Cream Manufacturers Association, had built into their dues a yearly fund with which to pay off the gangsters. By 1913, the Yiddish Black Hand had extorted a stranglehold on the seltzer and soda manufacturers, as well as the produce market, truckmen, and livery stables. Within their organization, one operative explained the payment system for their illegal deeds. It was assault, theft, and murder for hire.
Shooting fatal, $500. Shooting non-fatal, $100. Poisoning a team of horses, 50. Poisoning one horse, 35. Stealing a horse and rig, $25.
Jewish American gangs generally arose among slum kids who, in pre-puberty, stole from the pushcarts, and then who, as adolescents, extorted money from store owners, and who, as young adults, practiced slamming, or wielding an iron pipe wrapped in a newspaper against striking workers or against scabs. Like the Italian and Irish immigrants, many of the youth joining gangs were from poor families, and the appeal of fast money, power, and the glamour of the criminal lifestyle looked far more attractive than the hard labor and desperate existence of their parents. As adults, they joined well-organized gangs involved in a wide variety of criminal enterprises, including labor racketeering and hiring out to both businesses and labor unions as strong-arm men. With the rise of bootlegging operations during Prohibition, Jewish gangs and gangsters, too, got into the rum-running racket. The Purple Gang, also known as the Sugar House Gang, consisted of bootleggers and hijackers operating in the Detroit area in the 1920s. 4 Jewish brothers who had emigrated from New York, Abe, Joe, Raymond, and Izzy Bernstein, led the Purple Gang, coming up in their neighborhood as petty thieves and shakedown artists before graduating to armed robbery and extortion under the guidance of older gangsters. They were notorious for their mean spirit and savagery. One legend as to the origin of their moniker, the Purple Gang, comes from a supposed conversation between 2 shopkeepers.
These boys are not like the other children of their age. They're tainted, off color.
Yes, they're rotten. Purple like the color of bad meat. They're a purple gang.
By 1933 in Detroit, the Purple Gang had been rumored to have been in control of many aspects of the local government. One concerned citizen, his name censored by the FBI, wrote a letter to the Washington office in a call for help dealing with suspected prisoners being released for monetary gain.
August 22, 1933. Mr. Joseph B. Keenan, Bureau of Investigation, Department of Justice, Washington, D.C. Dear Sir, if it is the privilege of a private citizen, may I call to your attention for investigation a condition which I am satisfied exists in the state of Michigan, the correction of which warrants federal assistance. I am addressing this request to you because of recent statements in the press relating the determination of the federal government to stamp out political gangster government. I am convinced that Governor Comstock and a Mr. Isaiah Leibove are in the business of delivering prisoners from jail for a price. I will enumerate from memory and in the order of their occurrence approximately events reported in the press leading to my stated conviction. No doubt you have investigators in the field who are familiar with the situation I have outlined and who are capable of determining if the conclusions I draw are correct. I notice that October 6th is the date set for the Senate committee inquiry into Detroit rackets. In my opinion, the mayor, police commissioner, and prosecutor Toy in particular are doing their utmost to combat gangsters and racketeers. Their efforts will be of little avail if the chief executive of the state is aiding or operating a racket and to accomplish his end is willing to go so far as to tamper with the jury system and prison administration. In fairness to you, I assure you that none of the dismissed officials are friends of mine or known to me. My sole purpose in asking your aid is to see the wrong corrected if my suspicion is well-founded, or to be satisfied through your investigation that I have misjudged the accused. Yours very truly.
In New York, the Bugs and Meyer Mob, led by notorious gangsters Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky, defined Jewish American organized crime and soon became a gold standard for gangsters nationwide. Originally uniting simply in defense against Italian and Irish gangs, Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel, and Lucky Luciano soon recruited expert gunmen and supplied bootleggers with stolen trucks and drivers. The NYPD described the gang as vicious, and for a time, the Bugs and Meyer Mob had absorbed, subordinated, or destroyed most of the Italian-American gangs on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. They began in the early 1920s to extort money from Jewish moneylenders and shopkeepers, as well as Irish and Italian shop owners and gamblers. The gangsters' exploits were legendary.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help us produce more compelling historical content like this, please like, comment below, and share this video with fellow history buffs. And of course, be sure to subscribe to help keep history happening.